So if you ever fly down from Anchorage on a nice day, you might see this bay on the outside coast about 100 miles west of Juneau. It's almost circular. There's an island in the middle of it, but it's a gorgeous bay, but it's got this bad reputation among mariners, and it's partially because of the entrance. The tide runs out there, and when it's ebbing against the typical swell in the ocean, it just creates ferocious waves, and a number of boats have been lost there. But the real reason mariners are edgy about it happened in July 9th on 1958. 3 boats were in there that night, commercial fishing boats just anchored up for the night. And it was a gorgeous, still night. And on this one boat, this guy, Howard Ulrich, he woke up around 10:15. The boat was moving all around, and he thought his anchor had dragged and he was getting close to the bar. Well, he stepped up into the pilot house to see what was going on, and what he saw just was etched in his mind forever. Because at the head of the bay there are these mountains, and he said the mountains were jumping up and down. It was an earthquake so severe that it knocked the needle off the seismograph at the University of Washington, 1,000 miles away. Well, he stood there looking at those mountains, literally rooted to the spot. I mean, he didn't think it actually would affect him. And then all of a sudden he saw this wave just erupt out of the head of the bay and come towards him. So he grabbed his 6-year-old son, started the engine, put a life jacket on his son, and without even being able to pick up the anchor, just started driving full speed out of there. Luckily, the anchor chain snapped, but then this 50-foot wave hit him, and fortunately his boat didn't capsize. But in just an instant, this tranquil bay was transformed into this jumble of icebergs and huge trees and just swirling all around. Meanwhile, there were 2 other boats in the bay, and this couple on a boat called the Sunmore, he came up into his pilot house, and what he saw was even more dramatic, because there's a glacier at the head of the bay, and normally you can't see that glacier. You know, he'd been up there in a skiff, he knew where the glacier was. But when he stood there that night, he could see the glacier. No one believed him, but what had happened was that earthquake was so severe, it had raised that glacier up several hundred feet. And he just stood there in awe. He just couldn't believe it. Then the same wave came for him, and it picked him up, and it actually carried him over the trees of the spit that separates the bay from the ocean outside, and it knocked a hole in his boat, and he and his wife were just able to get into their dinghy as the boat sank underneath them. There was one more boat in the bay, and the last they saw of that boat, it was racing for the entrance before the wave engulfed it, and those guys were never seen again. So to this day, when mariners go in there, they wonder, can it happen again?